Has any symbol in world history gone through such a wild transformation as the Christian cross? The cross was invented for one purpose: to torture. Archaeologists have found the bones of a crucified man from 1st century Rome with a nail still stuck through his heel bone, wedged in so tightly that they couldn't even get the nail out, apparently, for his burial. It's hard to imagine bleeding to death that way. Jesus was crucified like this. In fact, the earliest artistic depiction we have of Jesus is not a beautiful painted icon of a man with flowing hair, but rather a piece of graffiti from Rome on a plaster wall from about the year 200 AD. On the depiction, a crucified man is on a cross with the head of a donkey, with the inscription, "Alexamenos worships his God," that God being Jesus, and the writer of the inscription mocking Alexamenos. How is it the case that this most elemental of symbols, one line crossing another, became not merely an image of pain but a sign of victory, inspiring the faithful with the precious hope of resurrection? Or even something depicted artistically in thousands of different formats, exploited by empires, repositioned to make scandalous art, and even worn as jewelry, as a fashion accessory. The cross has taken quite a journey from an ancient past to a contemporary expression. What are Christians supposed to do with images of the cross today? Have we become desensitized to the image of the cross? Do crosses just mean less to us now?
By now, most Christians have heard the depressing news. Faith is on the decline. We can read about it in sociological reports. We can hear about it on the news. Why, in the middle of an environment like that, would Christian universities exist at all, one might ask? And on top of that, why would one university, George Fox University, on the west coast of Oregon, build an intricate new chapel on its campus? And more, why would that same university contract with a stone sculptor, an artist, one of the last of his kind in the world, who lives in a small village on the west coast of Ireland, to build a cross, a beautiful stone, 12-foot tall cross in the style of the Irish High Cross, to go outside of that chapel? We're so intrigued that we're going to travel to the west coast of Ireland, to this small village, to visit this stonemason. But first, while we're in Ireland, we're going to visit some of the most prominent medieval high cross sites in the land, to learn something about the people who made them, the imagery that they used, the context of the George Fox University cross, and the context of higher education, of learning and faith in Western Christianity.
Ireland is known for its high cross tradition. But what exactly is a high cross? There's no specific definition of what constitutes a high cross. They are certainly tall, and there are around 300 of these artifacts spread across Ireland. Many think they were used as sites of teaching and learning. First stop on the journey, one of the most iconic places to explore this tradition.
We are here in the heart of medieval Ireland at a site called Clonmacnoise, which is one of the centers of Irish monastic Christianity. It was founded in the 500s AD by an enterprising young monk named Ciaran, and this site became really important for learning in Ireland because it was at the crossroads of the country for trade and for travel. As the site was at an important crossroads in medieval Ireland, it was also a site that was plundered many, many times. The monks, though, who founded this site were so intense and so dedicated to this place as a site of learning and as a site of worship, they kept rebuilding it over and over and over again, basically for 1,000 years. Think about this image of rebuilding the site for hundreds and hundreds of years as a symbol of faith. There are always periods of ruin and of loss and of devastation. Indeed, just periods of change. And to see a site like this that can endure through those periods of change and thrive is an amazing symbol for faith in our time. Although out on the grounds of Clonmacnoise is a replica of the Cross of the Scriptures dating from the 900s AD, inside the museum is the actual cross in here to preserve it. So beautiful and beautifully lit here in this museum format. The scenes here are ones that you would expect to find. Jesus being arrested, and Jesus with the disciples, and Jesus on the cross, and Jesus triumphant on the other side. There are those, however, on this cross, some surprising scenes.
For example, here, Jesus is being resurrected. Here's Jesus lying on the bottom with some Roman soldiers asleep over the top of him. But as they sleep, a bird flies in. This is a bird with its beak, and its beak seems to be going right into Jesus' mouth, as though the bird is resuscitating Jesus. Maybe the bird here is a symbol of the Holy Spirit, bringing Jesus to life. One feature of this cross is a mixture of some very secular themes, some characters that are not from the Bible or scriptures at all. Fascinating to see, though, even on this cross where the secular and sacred are blended, on the very panel in which the two so-called secular scenes appear, this is the scene in which we have Christ at the Last Judgment, triumphant at the top over all of the world order in the narrative of the cross. Next, let's visit Monasterboice, a 1,500-year-old monastery located on the east coast of Ireland that has exactly what we came here to see. I'm here with maybe the most spectacular and ornate of the high crosses in all of Ireland here at Monasterboice. This cross is just spectacular. I mean, to be here physically with it, it's just massive. There's another taller cross at the site, but this one is the one that has the most ornate carvings on it, and it is just so well preserved. You have Adam and Eve followed by Cain and Abel. So you have the sense of humanity, but also of sin that stands at the beginning of this story. Here, I think we might have scenes from the life of David, shields, maybe music, something like that. Moses and Israel in the wilderness, Moses striking the rock. However, not all of these crosses are in a serene countryside location. We are here in the bustling city of Kells, where school has just gotten out. We are here by the so-called Market Cross, one of 5 high crosses actually in the city of Kells. A market cross traditionally is a cross that was set up in a public place as a way of rallying or gathering the community, a place where maybe a festival or a market would have been set up. The cross here is a little bit broken at the top, and it's been moved many times. It's even been hit by a bus, I think. I don't know, the stories of these crosses are so fascinating because they are also the story of a community and the story of a people. Before we meet the artist, let's visit the high cross that he is using as a model for the George Fox design. It's just a short distance from his studio. This cross actually, more than some of the other ones that we might see, actually has a lot of animals on it. So this idea that you have animals might be decorative. On the other hand, perhaps the animals had some kind of symbolic meaning, a kind of paradise on earth being depicted where humans and animals live together in harmony. So the idea then that Eden is being restored here in the story of the cross might be a prominent theme. Having taken this journey and visited these crosses, we're now ready to visit the artist at his studio and see how the George Fox cross is coming along.
My name is Brendan McGloin. I am a stone carver. I started sort of construction worker and a barman, you know, just double jobbing. So from the age of like 20, I had a hammer and a chisel in my hand, and I was dressing stone.
What is it about stone that attracts you to working with stone?
It's so permanent, you know, and it's been used forever to represent, I suppose, cultures, you know. Mm-hmm. Most cultures have always used stone as you know, or some sort of a precious, hard material, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm like a surgeon, kind of. These are the tools. There's some of them, right? But these are more the kind of hand carving chisels and rasps. You see these little fellas? These are like a little, they're like sandpaper on a stick, right? They're brilliant.
How similar is this to how somebody who made any of the other crosses around the year 900 or 1000, how similar is this to the way that they worked?
It's no different, really. They wouldn't have the likes of these little sort of rasps and rifflers, but every other tool here they're going to identify.
Yeah, like they would recognize this.
That's a mallet, yeah. I mean, the only difference with that is it's modern plastic nylon.
Yeah, they would have wood.
And that's wood, you know. And I'll happily use this. See, with the wooden mallet, the nylon mallet,
yeah, a little bit of a difference.
and the metal hammer, it's like there's 3 different So that's all playing on your body and noise, you know, and neighbours. So, but again, you know, that will give you a more subtle and a softer. You just know what hammer to take when you need it, so to speak. All of these marks, see these tool marks, they're interesting. They're something I wouldn't remove, you know, like get sandpaper out and take it away, because no, those are the making marks,
right?
And they add to it, because you know, see this molding here, it's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's nearly like machine done. So there's a contrast between what the person looking at it perceives as being, say, like very finished machine, as opposed to chiseled and, you know, eked out by hand, but they're both eked out by hand.
If you think about someone seeing the cross you're making for George Fox University in its place, maybe even in like 200 years, it would be there. I mean, there must be some sense you have that you're building something that will outlive all of us.
Oh yeah. It's a great kind of feeling where we've all got a short period on this planet, and you know, for people to be afforded the opportunity to leave something substantial behind them, you know. I can't wait to see it myself erected, you know.
Yeah.
I'm really excited, you know, but it's something to look forward to, you know, and it's gonna be great.
I think it's worth talking for our George Fox community about why we would choose exactly the image of an Irish high cross to be part of our new chapel structure on our campus. Certainly there are a lot of spiritual traditions, of visual traditions, and of cross traditions in the world that one could choose. Why this one? In a sense, any of the artistic choices that we make, or even any of the historical choices in a sense, might seem arbitrary. But I think this cross tradition is really compelling for our community for a number of reasons. First of all, there's just the sheer artistic achievement of the cross, which I think gestures really well to our identity as a community of makers, of artists visually and in sculpture, of musicians, and also of engineers who make things physically. We have such a great heritage of that at our university, and these crosses really symbolize that really, really well. Another compelling reason for this cross to be part of our community, I think, is the way that these high crosses were connected with sites of learning in medieval Ireland. The crosses were almost always on the sites of monasteries. And of course, the university has its origins in a monastic community. A term like dean, for example, was in fact a monastic term. The crosses gesture toward the university as a site of learning, just as these monasteries were sites of learning integrated with worship. We have visited these sites with these high crosses, and they have endured for over 1,000 years. So having seen that and now reflecting on our university and its future, can you imagine what it would be like for our cross to be standing and to be teaching and to be calling people to prayer in the year 3000, in the year 3500, in the year 4000? I mean, some of these crosses at the sites we visited have actually been standing at or near the sites where they stand now for well over a millennium, 1,000 years. That's the kind of endurance in faith and in learning that we want to have. In Luke chapter 18, Jesus tells a parable of a persistent widow who keeps begging an unjust judge for justice for herself. And even this unjust judge, Jesus says, gives her the justice that she asked for. This is to be a symbol of the persistence of faith. And at the end of that parable, Jesus says a curious thing. He says, "But when the Son of Man returns, will there even be faith on earth?" This idea of Jesus challenging us to persist, to stay, to remain, to keep doing things in faith is a really challenging one. I think especially in a world where it just seems for Christians like the future of faith is unclear.
What can the high cross tradition teach us about the future of faith? So many things. We learn that our Christian tradition is an artistic tradition, and that it is a learning tradition, and that in the cross, these two things can be combined and integrated. One thing it definitely teaches us is that our way in faith goes through the cross, through endurance, through every paradox that the cross signifies: triumph and pain, high and low, action and waiting, building and destruction, death, and resurrection. This is the kind of symbol a Christian university should have.